The rain poured heavily that evening, turning the city streets into a blur of lights and puddles. I stood under the awning of a small cafe, hugging my coat tightly around me. I hadn't planned to stop there, but the sudden downpour had left me with no choice. "Doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon," a voice said from beside me. Startled, I turned to see a man standing a few feet away. His jacket was soaked, and his wet hair clung to his forehead. Despite the weather, he wore a faint smile. "No, it doesn't," I replied softly, unsure of what else to say. He stepped closer, his hands tucked into his pockets. "Do you have an umbrella? Or are you waiting for someone to bring you one?" I shook my head. "Neither. I thought it might stop, but I guess I was wrong." He glanced at the umbrella tucked under his arm. "Well, I have one. We could share it, if you trust strangers, that is." I hesitated. Sharing an umbrella with someone I just met wasn't something I usually did, but the rain showed no signs of stopping, and I had a long walk home. "Okay," I said finally, offering a small smile. He opened the umbrella, holding it above us as we stepped out into the rain. It was quiet at first, the sound of raindrops filling the space between us. But then he spoke. "I'm Adam," he said, glancing at me. "Emma?" I replied. "Well, Emma," he said with a grin, "you don't look like someone who enjoys getting caught in the rain." I laughed softly. "Not really, but I guess it's better than being stuck inside all the time." He nodded. "True. Sometimes a little rain can be refreshing." By the time we reached my street, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. I stopped at the corner and turned to him. "Thank you for sharing your umbrella, Adam. I really appreciate it." He smiled. "Anytime. Take care, Emma." As he walked away, I couldn't help but feel like I'd just met someone important. A few weeks later, I saw him again. This time, it was at a bookstore. I was browsing through the shelves when I heard a familiar voice. Looking for something specific? I turned to see Adam, holding a cup of coffee and smiling at me. "Not really," I said, surprised. "Just browsing." He nodded, glancing at the book in my hand. "That one's good. A little sad, though." I smiled. "I don't mind sad stories." He chuckled. "Then you'll like it. Mind if I join you for coffee after this? There's a great little cafe around the corner." I hesitated for a moment, but something about him made it hard to say no. "Sure." Over the next hour, we talked about everything. Books, movies, our favorite places in the city. He had a way of making me laugh, of making everything seem lighter. "I don't usually talk this much," I admitted, stirring my coffee. "Me neither," he said, leaning back in his chair. "But with you it feels easy." I looked down, feeling a warmth in my chest that I hadn't felt in a long time. The weeks that followed were filled with more meetings, coffee dates, walks in the park, late-night phone calls. Adam and I fell into a rhythm, and it felt natural, like we'd known each other forever. But there was always a part of me that held back. I wasn't sure why. Maybe it was fear? Fear of getting too close, of getting hurt. One evening, as we sat by the river, Adam turned to me. "Emma, can I ask you something?" "Of course," I said, glancing at him. "Why do you always seem distant? Like you're here, but not fully here." I hesitated, looking out at the water. It's not you, Adam. It's just I've been hurt before, and it's hard to open up again. He nodded, his expression serious. I get that. But I'm not here to hurt you, Emma. I just want to know you, the real you. His words touched something deep inside me, but I didn't know how to respond. Instead, I leaned against his shoulder, letting the silence say what I couldn't. As time passed, I found myself falling for him, his kindness, his patience, the way he always seemed to know what to say. It was impossible not to. But life has a way of testing the things we hold dear. One afternoon, Adam called me, his voice tense. Emma, can we talk? It's important. My heart sank. Of course. Where are you? Meet me at the park, he said. When I arrived, I found him sitting on a bench, his hands clasped tightly together. He looked up as I approached, his eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. Adam, what's wrong? I asked, sitting beside him. He took a deep breath. Emma, I need to tell you something. I wasn't completely honest with you. I felt a chill run through me. What do you mean? I'm engaged, he said softly. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. I stared at him, unable to process what I'd just heard. You're what? I whispered. He looked down, his shoulders slumping. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't plan on meeting you, on feeling this way about you, but I can't change the fact that I'm supposed to marry someone else. My mind raced, the emotions swirling inside me, too much to handle. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't know how, he said, his voice breaking. I didn't want to lose you. Tears filled my eyes as I stood up, my chest tight. You already have. I walked away, leaving him sitting there, and for the first time in weeks, the warmth I'd felt was replaced by a cold emptiness. Days passed after that meeting in the park, but I couldn't shake the conversation with Adam. His words replayed in my mind like an unending loop. I'm engaged. The phrase had carved itself into my thoughts, each repetition more painful than the last. I tried to focus on work, on family, on anything to keep my mind away from him. But every small reminder, a book we'd talked about, a cafe we'd visited, brought it all back. And then, one evening, as I was getting ready to leave the office, my phone buzzed. Adam, can we meet? Just once more, please? I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. My mind screamed to ignore him, to walk away, but my heart didn't listen. We met at the same park where it had all unraveled. The evening was quiet, the air cool, and the faint smell of flowers lingered. Adam was already there when I arrived, sitting on the bench with his head in his hands. As I approached, he looked up, his eyes tired and full of emotion. Thank you for coming, he said softly. I sat down beside him, keeping a small distance between us. What do you want, Adam? I had to see you, he said, his voice heavy. I couldn't leave things the way they were. I looked away, staring at the fading light. You should have thought of that before you lied to me. He winced, and for a moment, he didn't say anything. Then he spoke, his voice trembling. Emma, I never wanted to hurt you. When we met, I didn't expect any of this. I didn't expect to feel everything I feel for you. I clenched my hands in my lap, but you knew you were engaged and you still let this happen. Do you have any idea what that feels like, Adam, to care for someone and find out they're not yours to care for? He turned to me, his face etched with regret. I know, and I hate myself for it. But Emma, you need to know, my engagement wasn't my choice. It was arranged by my family. I never loved her. The words hung in the air, heavy and painful. So what do you want me to do, Adam? I said, my voice breaking. Wait for you to figure out your life? Watch you marry someone else while I pretend none of this ever happened? He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I just needed you to know the truth, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Because no matter what happens, I need you to understand how much you mean to me. Tears filled my eyes and I stood up, shaking my head. You don't get to do this. You don't get to tell me I'm special and then walk away. That's not fair, Adam. He stood too, his own eyes glistening. I know it's not fair. None of this is. But if I had a choice, it would be you. The silence between us was deafening. Goodbye, Adam, I said finally, my voice breaking. And with that, I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, his silhouette blurred by the tears streaming down my face. Months passed and I tried to move on. I buried myself in work, spent time with friends, and avoided the places where we had shared so many memories. But some wounds don't heal easily. One day, as I was walking home, I passed by the cafe where we had first met. I paused, the memories flooding back. His smile, his warmth, the way he had made me feel like I was the only person in the world. I stepped inside, unsure of what I was looking for. The place was the same, soft lighting, the smell of fresh coffee, and the quiet hum of conversations. But he wasn't there. I sat at a corner table, staring at the empty seat across from me. It felt like a lifetime ago that he had sat there, laughing, telling me about his favorite books and movies. The barista brought me my coffee, and I thanked her with a faint smile. As I took a sip, I felt a strange sense of closure. Maybe some stories weren't meant to have happy endings. It wasn't until a year later that I heard from him again. I was at my desk, sorting through emails when my phone buzzed. The message was simple. I'm sorry. I hope you're happy. I stared at it for a long time, my heart heavy. I didn't reply. If you liked my story, please like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next story.